Hey everyone, welcome back to Room 237, and I'm back at you with another review. This is going to be a very different review because it's not really a horror film at all, which I'll get into. I think it was marketed as a horror film, or at least that's what a lot of people thought they were going into with it. It's not really a horror film, and it's not part of the gangster crime films that I've been doing, but it is a great movie. But before I get into that, I hope this is the video where you'll hit the subscribe button, and if you do, also hit the bell next to it, so you get all the notifications. And if you can do me a huge favor and please like this video, the bell and the like, I guess, helps me out quite a bit. I'm finding out. So if you do that, that would be awesome. And thank you for joining me. So this is on it's a 2019 film, and it's been on my radar since it came out. I've heard nothing but praise, nothing but high praise from those who saw it, and nothing but stupid garbage from those who haven't seen it. And it's obvious they haven't seen it. It's more of it's a black comedy thriller that's also social commentary or satire. But it's 2019's, I was going to say the director's name first, but 2019's Parasite. And directed by Bong Joon-ho, who I've never seen any of his films. I know of them. Okja, Snowpiercer, Mother. I know he's done a number of films. I've heard they've all been good. They've all been pretty highly acclaimed. And this was the first best foreign feature to also win Best Picture at the Oscars. If it sounds like I'm going slow, it's because, I don't know. It's been a while since I made a video. I've kind of gotten out of my funk, I guess. And I think it was the first wholly non-American film to win Best Picture. So that's also incredible. So yeah, I remember when I first heard of this, I thought it was a horror film. I thought it was going to be, part of the new elevated horror movement, a la Robert Eggers, Ari Aster, who I'm not a big fan of. Robert Eggers, I am. More so horror movies like that. And I've seen a lot of horror channels talking about it as well. I could chalk it up to it just being a fantastic movie, or just because the thriller aspects are so well done. So is the black comedy parts. And I went into this movie the best way possible, and it's the way that I highly recommend you go into it if you haven't seen it already. And that is as cold and blind as possible. I didn't really know what this movie was about. I knew it was about social class, a poor family, and a rich family. That was pretty much all I knew. And they end up somehow together in this one house. I didn't know how or why. Because this is one of those movies where, and I've said this before in past videos, I can't remember which ones, where just the plot unfolds so well. It goes through all these, it's not like harsh turns. It takes you on a ride through its plot that is best to just watch it unfold without knowing really anything about it. So highly recommend. This is going to be full of spoilers, and this is one where if you haven't seen it, I do recommend not going through with this video. It's on Hulu, so if you have Hulu, you can watch it there. Or go pick up the Criterion DVD. That's what I'm going to do as soon as possible, because I definitely want to own it. So there will be spoilers, but I will say, before I get more to the plot, because I'm not even going to talk about the plot until after I give the spoiler warning. I think by default, Joker is still my favorite film of 2019. Just because. I love the Scorsese Taxi Driver feel to it. In fact, it's, it is like a Batman setting. It's in Gotham. It's Joker. It is a great look at Joker and his origins, like a realistic way. But I will say this is the best made film of 2019. Absolutely. Joker is my favorite, but I think this is the best made. And while I would say I do find the black and white, I think it's 4:6 aspect ratio on Lighthouse to be a bit more interesting. The cinematography in this is still flawless. It is just a crown jewel of cinematography. Everything about this film works. The acting, the cinematography, of course, the music, the editing, the story, the mixture of its very highbrow, clever, smart and well-written humor, along with its thrills and its turns, and very sad ending. The ending I'll say that till later. It's a beautiful film to watch, and so I think it's the best made of 2019. So directed by Bong Joon-ho. I believe this was his first win for Best Director and Picture. I know it was his first Best Picture. But has he won? Academy Awards. Parasite. Nope, he's only won. The only Oscars he's ever won was for Parasite. Best Picture, Director, and Screenplay. And he did write it as well. I know a lot of people say Oscars don't mean anything, but that's gotta mean something. That guy who directed and wrote the film won Best Picture, Original Screenplay, and Director, Screenplay, and Picture. That's pretty amazing. For a filmmaker, that's gotta be like, the holy trinity of Oscars. But he's won a bunch of others for his other films as well. And it stars... It stars... forgive me on this. It is a Korean film. Song Kang-ho, who I know has been in a number of Ho's films. Lee Sun-kyun, Cho Yeo-young, Choi Woo-shik, Park So-dam, Lee Jung-un, Jang Hae-jin. I apologize if I mispronounced any of those or all of them. I'm sure I did. But stars, all phenomenal actors. They all did so well. And the chemistry was some of the best I've seen in a film. And I don't know how long. I mean, there were parts in this film where I actually caught myself sitting back with just my eyes wide open, my mouth open, just my heart racing. Because when this movie's funny, it's funny. When this movie is intense, it's intense. It is, it will crank up, it knows how to crank up the anxiety. And again, just it. He did say he was very, very highly influenced by Hitchcock throughout his career, but also with this film. There's a lot of familiar themes that parallel Hitchcock's. There's even a shot of Hitchcock in the film as if to say, yes, here he is. I'm borrowing from him, or I've been so inspired by him. Here he is on the screen. But some of the shots kind of remind me of like Kubrick. I mean, this big, beautiful house, and he's shooting in this 235 widescreen. I can't remember what Kubrick always shot in, but it is this very, wide shots of this big open house. And he also did that to get all of the family in one shot. And just the parallels between, the small basement apartment of the poor family and this luxurious house of the rich family. There's a lot of symbolism in it that a lot of people still talk about. I cannot recommend this film enough. And I also found the ending to be very sad, and I mean, I just got done watching it probably about an hour ago, and I've just been kind of going over it in my head, thinking about everything, trying to process everything. It is a movie that you should probably do more than one watch. As a reviewer, I didn't, but I would gladly watch it again. I do know my girlfriend, who's not home, I gave her a rough premise, and she really wants to see it. So I'll see it again, gladly. Gonna go out and buy it. But, just... It is 2 hours and 12 minutes. And I will say it did take about 25 minutes or so for me to really kind of get what's going on, because again, I didn't know a thing about this movie. I didn't know what the families had to do with each other and what was gonna, what the movie was really about. So I pretty much had to find the hook to bite onto. And it is one of those movies where it's like, who's the real Parasite? And yeah, so like, is it the rich that's being the parasite to this home? Is it the rich people for, reasons I'll get into? It's a very good movie. If you really want to laugh, something that's just as funny as the comedy that's in this is if you go watch some of the Oscar reactions. There's this one guy who I'm sure people have seen. I'm not going to say his name just because I don't want to do that. Ranting about this movie for winning Best Foreign Film and Best Picture. Just complaining how that should not be allowed. It's a foreign film. Who the hell here in America has seen it? Joker should have won because of all the things it talked about social class and rich people, poor people, not knowing what this movie's about, just talking all this shit. And there's a lot of, tweets and memes and videos that you can find of people talking like that, accusing this movie of being woke. That's not the case. This movie's not woke. In fact, when Bong Joon-ho won his Oscar, he was extremely humble. I think he said, it's a great honor. Thank you. He's just a guy who loves film, loves stories, and made one. That's basically it. He was the only Oscar recipient that didn't go up and talk about some agenda-filled, speech. So just some of those reactions I found hilarious. And you can always tell who watched this film and who didn't. This is not Ghostbusters 2016. This is not Captain Marvel. This is not... Wait, I didn't even see Captain Marvel. I'm just... Okay, so now I'm guilty of it. I've heard a lot. I did see Ghostbusters, but it's not woke. That's not even about the film. That's just a side note about what other people are saying about it. One moron even said, Oscars is so woke, a Korean guy from Korea wins the award and goes up and doesn't speak English. It's like, well, no shit, pal. He's Korean. But anyway, so with that, wonderful movie. I mean, across the board, everything. All the technical aspects, the acting, the story, it will pull you in. It will send you on just a coaster of emotions. It is 2 hours, 12 minutes. It is foreign. There's subtitles. But, even if you're not a fan of that, I know a lot of people that don't like to read subtitles. I don't mind it. There's a lot of movies that I watch that have subtitles. Highly recommend it. 16 minutes in, haven't even talked about the movie yet. I apologize for that. So, spoilers, if you haven't seen it, go see it first. This is a movie you gotta see as blind as possible. So we open up with the Kim family. And See, one thing I'm really bad with foreign films is not only remembering the names, but remembering how to pronounce them. So I'm just going to say, Mr., Mrs. Kim, and then, Kim's son, Kim daughter. And the rich family is Park, so I'm going to do the same thing, because I'm just going to butcher these names. So, there's Mr., Mrs., son and daughter Kims, and they're in their late teens. They're poor. They live in this real shitty, dingy, bug and rodent filled basement in this seedy part of town where it's normal for drunks and homeless to just come piss outside their window. The only job they have, which only one of them is employed, is folding pizza boxes, which they all do together to get a lot done. Well, the street and houses are being fumigated, so the father decides to leave the window open because then they get a free fumigation. Boxes don't come out right. I believe it's the mother who actually has the job. Gets docked pay for all the boxes that are correct. And so the son, he asked for a job there because I think it was a delivery person or someone. But then, I actually forgot how we... Oh, then a friend of his comes by and gives him a scholar's rock, which in Korea, it's this big, nicely shaped rock that it's an old Korean tradition. They keep it, they'll keep it on their desk. Can be worth a lot of money. He gives it to the son, and the rock has symbolism throughout the whole film. Some people will say different things for different parts of the film. To me, there's a line that says, I believe it's from the father, says, you know, something about having a little bit of hope, but fear of falling deeper than you already are. I think The Rock is supposed to represent hopes and dreams of a better life, but how they go about it. And I'll say what I mean at the end. So then his friend tells him that this rich family, the Parks, their teenage daughter, who's really cute, he says, her tutor just went off to university, and you should go apply. So he does, but he poses as a tutor, as someone who went there, because his sister, who has taken some art classes and some acting classes, she forges a diploma for the university. Which I think in the original script, it was supposed to be a high school diploma, but Ho changed it to university because of just how prestigious this form needed to look and how harder it is to get. Which I guess originally he wanted to release this in black and white, and I think he said he was going to in January of last year in select cities. If he does it on DVD and if it's a separate DVD, I'll buy both, because he thought the balance of black and white would show the division of classes more than a color film. Maybe. So he goes and he really impresses the Park family, and they hire him. And then he sees that they have a younger son who they show to be a little hyperactive, adventurous, rambunctious, with an affinity for, quote, Indian culture. You know, he wears head feathers, got a bow and arrow. And so then he asks them if he has a tutor. And I think it turns out he doesn't, so he says, well, you know, oh no, the Park's mother shows him a drawing that's hung on the wall that the son did. And actually, that drawing, it could be coincidence, he never actually said, but it looks a lot like a drawing from Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train. A lot of people think it is because of all the Hitchcock stuff that's in here. And so talking about how art can be therapeutic. So he says, I actually know of someone who would be a great art tutor. And so then he tells his sister, why don't you go apply to be this kid's art tutor? So then she gets hired. And, you know, they're putting on this act of being these very prestigious, well-educated students in their respectful fields. Like, she even picks up on, like, some of his artwork. There's, like, this black spot down in the corner that she says, you know, we call this, like, the Frenia zone, or whatever. It's like, did he have trauma in first grade? And the mother's like, oh my God, yes, he did. I can't talk about it though. She's like, okay, that's fine. Very impressed. So then what happens is each person that works for this family, the tutors, the housemaid, the driver, the Kim family works together to do these really deceitful, elaborate setups to get them fired. and then they sort of forward someone that they heard of or someone they know through someone else that can fill that position. That's someone else in the family. That for me was the hook. That's when I was like, okay, that I thought that was very interesting because the driver was the third one to go, or the third position to be filled, the second person to go, and they do that by well, actually, I could do this. Son and daughter Kim, they go by their American names. Like, I guess they were given American names. So Kevin and Jessica. They, what was it? They put a pair of girls' panties in the car to make it look like he's having sex with a girlfriend or someone in his car, and then driving the family around. So they fire him, and then they find out, even through the family, like the Parks daughter tells Kevin that the housemaid has, that she would love peaches. There's no peach, it's the forbidden fruit, that's what she says. Can't have them in the house because the housemaid is deathly allergic to peaches. Like, even if some of the fuzz or dust on a peach touches her, she could have an asthmatic attack. So they use that. They get peaches. They shave some of the fuzz off into this little vial, and whenever they're behind her, they just kind of, like, drop some on her. So she starts having these asthma attacks and coughing fits. The dad, who has now become the driver, and this housemaid has worked for them for years. Like, they were even, I think they were even part, like, for the family that lived there before the Parks. Could be wrong on that. I think that's what it alluded to. But they've worked in that house for that family, I think, since they've been there. So she's a very trusted, almost a member of the family. But like, she goes to the hospital for her asthma. Kim goes there, and he just kind of like takes a selfie of himself with her in the background. And so then while he's out grocery shopping with Mrs. Parks, because he's the driver, he was like, isn't this the housemaid? I was there for my annual checkup, and I couldn't help but overhearing, because she was talking on the phone in the picture, something about tuberculosis. And I'm only saying it because with your children around and with her all throughout the house, I don't think that's a good idea. So as he's explaining that, they put more peach stuff on her, so she starts coughing up. And then, Mrs. Parks sees it, and it looks really violent. She throws her napkin in the trash, and then Mr. Parks goes up with like this hot sauce, a hot sauce packet, which is like runny and red, dumps that on it so it looks like she coughed up blood. And while this is going on, we cut back and forth between him explaining it to Mrs. Parks and sometime before, when they're home, going over a script that they wrote about, explaining this woman with tuberculosis. And just the back and forth, and, if they say a line, when we cut back, the other person won't. So it's like they scripted it perfectly. There's even a part, like, when he's getting all into it, and then Kevin, like, stops. He's like, no, you can't be that passionate. You got to tone it down. You got to save that for later. So they start, rehearsing this deception. So then she gets fired. And then they have, like, a business card made out. So while Kim is driving Park, talking about, oh, such, very nice woman, been with us for so long. He was like, well, here, take this, gives him a business card with a place called The Care. And he's like, yeah, someone I know had got a maid through there. They got great service, top quality workers. So then when the wife calls, it's Jessica that answers, pretending to be like the receptionist, gives them all this personal information. So then they hire the Kim mother. So now the whole family is in this other family's house, all strangers working as servants. And so it's like, okay, so they're kind of like the parasites now because they are, they've invaded the house, they've infected it with themselves, figuratively speaking. And they're sort of sucking in all the luxurious lifestyle that they didn't really work hard for. They forged, lied, deceived to get there. But at the same time, the Parks are sort of parasitic because they rely on other people to do everything for them. They rely on private tutors to teach their kids the things they want them to know. They have someone else drive them around. They have a housemaid cook and clean for them. And so we have that going on for a little bit. And then the Parks decide for the weekend of their son's birthday, decide to go on a camping trip. So while they're gone, the Kims live in the house. We get a little montage of, Jessica laying in the tub, watching TV. Kevin reading the daughter's diary. And then they're all sitting around the giant living room table, drinking all their alcohol. Just getting drunk and talking. And the chemistry is flawless. You really buy this is a family that sort of had to sort of cheat some kind of system to get this far in life. And Jessica's getting drunk, and I thought she was eating beef jerky, but then she realizes she's eating dog treats because they keep the dog treats in the drawer at the living room table. This is around the the halfway mark. This is where the film takes its turn from its dark satirical comedy into a thriller. Because while they're sitting there enjoying themselves, there's, someone ringing the bell. And, they have like a screen on the wall, touch screen, intercom. It's the previous housemaid. And her face is kind of messed up. She's got like this nervous laugh, and there's something off-putting about her. She says, oh, you must be my successor. I've lived here for a while. Could you please let me in? It's pouring rain out. Can you please let me in? They threw me out in such a hurry. There was something I forgot to get. So, she lets her in. The other three hide. She dims the lights because everything's a mess. They got booze and snacks all over the table. The dad even at one point hit bottles and glass all over the floor to pretend being mad. So the fire maid says what she has to get is down in the basement. And she keeps calling her sis, which Kim keeps telling her, don't call her sis. Which I guess, from the context I got, it's what people call their maid, or what maids, something like that. It was, she says, well, what was it that you have to get? And she just kind of turns and is like, you want to come down with me? It has like this awkward laugh. And at this point, I have no idea where the movie's going. I'm hooked. I'm sold. Don't know where it's going. So they get down there, and there's like this huge cabinet. It's like wall space cabinet. And she's like got her feet on the wall, arms on the cabinet, trying to push it. And she can't. And so then Mom Kim goes over, pull this thing up from underneath, slides out of the way, and there's a door there, which she opens, and there's like this like cement bunker staircase going down. And I'm just like, what the hell is that? And she starts calling out, honey, honey. And I'm like, no fucking way. No, don't tell me there's like a family of poor people already down there. And this family, the Park family is like in a, like, they collect poor people or something. It doesn't go that route. But you find out that her husband's down there. Her husband has gotten in deep with some loan sharks. They keep harassing her to find him. She keeps him down there. While the family is out, she goes down and feeds him. But after being fired and not being able to go down there for a number of days, he's pretty much starving because that plate was mistakenly left under the cabinet, so he couldn't get out himself, which is possible. At this point, the family is like down the stairs listening, and one of them slips and they all fall. Oh, but first you find out he's been living there for 4 years. So yeah, I think even longer than the Parks have lived there. So when they all fall, Kevin starts like holding his leg and he's like, Dad, my foot or something. And the first maid is like, Dad? Wait, she's like, Jessica? Kevin? Mr. Kim? Like, wait, Dad? You're all a family? So she records this video and then she's like, I'm going to send this to Madam. That's what she calls her, Madam. Unless you do exactly what we say. So then they go up in the living room. She's giving her husband like a back rub. The other family's on their knees with their arms up. Eventually there's well, I think it's around this time we see the shot of Hitchcock, because I think it's all these like DVDs or something that are collected. And there's like the filmmakers on the spines. There's Hitchcock. He even has a red spine. The rest are like green. So it really kind of draws your eyes to it. But it's next to a picture of the architect of the house. And the way he's standing in front of the house, like at an upward angle, it almost looks like Norman by the Bates house. And so that's sort of Ho's way of saying, here's Hitchcock. Like, sort of a self-aware, here you go kind of moment. And, I was reading up on something. So then there's a fight. They're all tumbling on top of each other. Kevin gets the phone, deletes the video. And then the phone rings. So Mrs. Kim answers it. And it's Mrs. Park saying, oh, change of plans. Pouring rain. By the time we got there, the campers were loading up their tents. He was devastated, but we're coming home. Can you make him some Ramdan, which I guess is ramen? It's his favorite. If you start boiling the water now, you can have it done. By the time we get home, she's like, so you're close? She says, 8 minutes. At this point, like, my heart was already racing when the whole bunker was revealed and that the housemaid had a husband that she couldn't get to, and then they revealed themselves as a family, and she had the video of them, was going to send it, and then they were fighting. Now I find out they're 8 minutes away. She has to cook this ramen. So the family does the best they can to clean up. Mr. Kim gets both of them downstairs, back down in the bunker, which he ties the husband up, which actually no, that's a little bit later. But so Jessica's like sweeping everything up in the living room, all the broken glass and everything, but like under the couch, the table, that she has to hide under the table. Kevin goes to throw the diary back where he found it in her room, which we find out she really likes him, and he's going to ask her out when she goes to the university. But then this is all right when they get home. So Jessica's under the table. Kevin has to hide under the daughter's bed. And then the first housemaid's like running up the stairs. And just as like Mrs. Park is walking in the kitchen, you see her emerge from the darkness out of the basement. And Mrs. Kim just like kicks behind her. She falls back down just as Mrs. Park goes to look. Perfectly timed, execution of people, the threat being there, the person that shouldn't be seeing anything, just a perfect execution of everything. And it's that great sort of Hitchcock suspense of, you got 8 minutes, house is a mess, you got these two people that you gotta hide and get rid of. So at that point, Mr. Kim stays down in the bunker with them. Oh, to break up the fight, Jessica ran to the fridge, got more peach stuff, and smeared it all over her face. And when Mrs. Kim kicked her down the stairs, she hit her head against the wall. She got a concussion. So at this point, the husband starts explaining his... because he's over at the wall, like, banging a button. You find out it's a hallway light. It's like these ball like lights hanging on the stairway that are like balls. And they must have thought they were sensors in them, because every time he walks by, they flash. But he knew, the husband knew that the son was a Boy Scout. So he's doing Morse code to try to alert him. So then at this point, no one wanted the ramen, but both wives are in the kitchen, and Park is now explaining to Kim this traumatic event that happened to the son in first grade. And this is what I thought was the scariest part of the movie. Like, if there's anything horror related, it's this. And I thought it was very well executed, because I always find stuff like this creepy. Said on his birthday when he was when he was in first grade, it was late at night. He was thinking about his cake. He went down into the kitchen. No lights were on. He took the cake out of the fridge. He was sitting on the floor eating it, and the basement door opened. And when he looked over, it was just like this perfect head-on shot. Like the door's here. You just see and just like from the stairs, you just see this head go. And the way it's lit, like the eyes are like really white, all this shadow. It was the husband from down below. Anytime I see like faces like peeking around something, I think it's creepy as fuck. So I thought that was a very effective scene. So that gave him a seizure-induced trauma. So a little bit of exposition on that. And so At this point, the family is trying to escape. But then the son comes down with the teepee. He wants to camp out outside anyway, despite the rain. So then the family, other than Mrs. Kim, has to hide under the living room table. And then the Parks decide, well, we can see him better. We can see the tent here. He's got his walkie-talkie. We can, no, why don't we just stay on the couch? So they're laying on the couch, and then they start getting into it. He starts feeling her up. She starts, they're kissing and talking. But first they're talking about the smell of Mr. Kim. Which earlier in the film, I forgot to mention this, when everyone is first hired, the young son runs in, sniffs Mr. Kim, and sniffs Mrs. Kim, and he's like, they smell the same. Everyone just kind of blows it off. He gets sent in the other room. So then later, after that scene, we see the Kims at their house saying, we all got to use different soaps. We all got to wash our own clothes with different detergent and fabric softeners. We have to smell differently. If we all smell the same, it's going to be more obvious. So the three members are under the living room table. The Park couple's on the couch, and they're talking. And he talks about how Mr. Kim smells. He smells bad, like old radishes. And sometimes he has to put the window down in the car because it comes right through the front seat into the back seat. And that's really sort of the only kind of disdain we get from, I guess how the rich look down on the poor, like, directly. He thinks they stink, or at least him specifically. And Mr. Kim, like, he's laying under the table, and he's like, it really affects him. So then they fall asleep. The mother texts the son under the table saying they're asleep, they're snoring, sneak out now. They slide out, they go to run down the stairs. But when Mr. Kim gets like halfway across the floor, the walkie-talkies go off. The son says he can't sleep. But, and I mean, he's laying right there. They're sitting on the couch, like, right there, but it's dark, so they can't see him. But he's able to get away, and you get this great scene. They're running back home in the pouring rain, and just the music is sort of swelling up. They're running, like, down the, not cobblestone, kind of looks like cobblestone, sort of windy hill way, and we just see them running all the different town that's like the lower parts of society. Then they finally get down to their neighborhood, and it's all flooded. Everyone's out in the streets, trying to get stuff out of their apartments. They get down to theirs. I mean, the water's up to here. Because it's all sewage water. And there's the part where even the toilet is shooting just shit water all over the place. And the music gets really sad. Oh, and before they go in, Kevin asks him, like, what's your plan? A plan as far as their facade with the Parks, the people in the basement, like, from here on out. And his answer is pretty much telling him and his sister to forget everything that happened that night. He'll take care of it. But I do like the scene in the flooded apartment because, like I said, the water's like up to here. he's trying to collect whatever it is he can. Jessica's in the bathroom sitting on this exploding toilet having a cigarette. And Kevin finds his scholar stone. Some people think it's floating. I thought it was just on a table, like closer to the surface of the water, but he collects it. And, by the end of the scene, the water's like up to here, and it was this very somber, sad music. And then they end up at this public gymnasium that's been turned into a shelter for people that lost their homes. And they're laying there together. And he asks Kevin, like, why are you clinging to that rock? Because he's laying in his sleeping bag holding it. And he says, I'm not. It's clinging to me. Which I'm sure can be interpreted as in many different ways. I took it as, it's all he has left, but he's forming something in his head of how he can use it. And he goes on this other speech about, you asked me what my plan was. The best plan to have is no plan at all, because then nothing can go wrong. And I guess that's how he's looking at this situation. So then the next day, Kim is driving around Mrs. Parks. And there's two things that happen in this scene that really kind of change his mindset. She's on the phone in the back seat talking to family about how they're going to take advantage of this rained out weekend to throw a surprise birthday party for their young son. But she's inadvertently talking about how this rain that was a slight inconvenience to her, it was a slight inconvenience, but now it's, like a godsend, because now we can take advantage of it and do this thing at home. Not realizing that Kim, who's driving the car, lost his home. So he's kind of hearing how the rich sort of look at this tragedy as a mild inconvenience, where it's a tragedy for, someone like him. And then he notices her kind of plug up her nose and put the window down, as in now she senses his smell. So this is when he's starting to see it as, okay, they think I stink, and kind of looking down on me. And I am pretty much this bottom poor person. And yeah, we lost our home. It's full of shitty water to this flood for this torrential rain. But to you, it ruins your camping plans. So he's really getting a different view of this whole thing. So they throw this big birthday party, this Native American themed birthday party. And everyone's invited. The daughter was able to invite Kevin, where there's a scene where they're even kissing. Jessica was invited. And the whole movie's pretty much building up to this scene. So Kevin brings his scholar stone, and his plan is to go down to the basement to take care of everything. He's gonna, bash him to death. But when he gets down there, he is overpowered by the guy in the basement, who, is able to overpower him. He gets the rock. He chases him back up through the basement, and he trips and falls, and the guy has the rock, and he just kind of like throws it and hits him in the head, seemingly killing him. But oh, but we also see that throughout the night, the guy in the basement has been hitting the light button to send Morse code throughout the night. And I think the younger son had picked up on some of it. But then we see both Kim and Park. They're in the bushes. They got these feather headdresses on because they're gonna rescue. I think it was Jessica. She's gonna bring the cake out, and then they have to, attack her, so that when the sun comes out, he can save her with the bow and arrow, save her and the cake. It's gonna be this big show. And there's this scene of them in the bushes, which it's a great exchange between the two actors about, Park is kind of talking about it like, it's kind of silly, but, he's really into Indians, so we're going to do this for him. And Kim is kind of saying it like, well, you must really love your wife, because he says it was all my wife's idea. He's like, you must really love your wife if you're willing to act all this out and do all this just to have a good party. Which I think is kind of reflective of him. Like, he really loves his family. That's why he was willing to act through the whole movie, essentially. But it's a great exchange between the two. So then, I think it was Jessica comes out with the cake. So they get ready to get in position, but then the man from the basement comes out, and his face is all bloody, but it almost looks like a cross, across his face. It's very almost the same as the war paint that the son is wearing, and he kind of walks through the crowd, and I think no one really reacts because they think it's war paint, but there's a big fight. Which I actually had to see who started it, because it's actually been a week since I saw it. If you saw earlier in the video when I said Kevin asked Kim what his plan was, there was a slight cut in there. That was because my phone was dying, so I had to stop recording, and then something came up, and I wasn't able to finish the video all week until now. So, yeah, that's why there's some differences in the background. I actually went out and I picked up the Criterion of DVD, and this does have the black and white version. Because earlier I said I wasn't sure if it was released or if it's going to be released, but this has it. I'm very glad I had the Criterion release. So I've just got to read to see, just because I'm kind of forgetting what actually started the whole thing. But, so the guy from the basement stabs the husband. Housekeeper, mother. I should have done this before. I don't know why I didn't. Stabs Ki Jong with a kitchen knife in front of the horrified party guests. Ki Jong. Oh, so he stabs Jessica with the kitchen knife. And then all the party guests are like, who's this crazy guy that just stabbed him? And then I think Kim grabs a knife and stabs him. And then there's this moment where he's laying there. Kim is there with Jessica, who's bleeding out and dying. And Park is like, Kim, like, give me the keys so that we can get to the hospital. That's what it was, so we can get to the hospital. Yeah. I'm sorry, I should have done this earlier. But oh yeah, because I think it was actually the Park wife. Oh, the son. The son suffers another seizure, similar to the one that was described earlier when he saw the ghost from the basement. So he's yelling at Kim to get his keys out to drive him to the hospital. But of course, in this moment, Kim looks at it as, because Park doesn't know that they're father and daughter. So he looks at it as, he's so selfish that, his son's having a seizure. My daughter's here been stabbed and bleeding out, but he's just so concerned about getting his family to the hospital. Along with thinking this whole party is a gift from the storm that took our home. So that's when he takes the knife, and then he goes up and he stabs Park and kills him in front of everyone. And that's where I thought the movie was going to end. Of course, he runs off, and we don't really know what happened to him. But we see in the next scene that Mrs. Kim and Kevin, who did live the attack, being hit in the head with the stone, they were tried. They were arrested. Well, he had brain surgery, and then when he came to, he was arrested. They were convicted of fraud, put on probation. They monitored them for quite a while. Mr. Kim is still being looked for. He still can't be found. Jessica did die. And the Parks had moved out of the home. And the house had been sold to a German family. But Kevin keeps going out to the house, and he watches it. He kind of remembers what it was like to live there for the short period that they were there. And then he notices the lights are flickering in an odd pattern. He realizes it's Morse code. And so he starts to decipher it. And that's when we find out that when Kim, after he stabbed Park and ran around the corner, he heard the sirens. The only thing he could think of to do was to hide in the bunker that the man himself had been in for 4 years. Because the Parks didn't even know it was there. So he hid in it. And, at first it was easy to sneak out and get food. But then the house was empty for so long. And then the German family, he said, they never go out. They stay up late. It's harder for him to sneak out. But, you know, that's where he is, and he's still alive. And it's kind of to say how Kim had sort of sunk as low, like, lower than he was before. Try to live a rich life, but now he's literally at the very bottom. He's at the bottom of that house, literally. And, and while the house was emptied, he buried, Moon Gwang. He buried the first housekeeper because no one knew that the bunker was there, so she was still in there. Buried her in the backyard. And he does the Morse code thing, hoping that Kevin would see it, hoping he would go back to the house in some way. And so then Kevin writes a letter, which we hear through his narration. It reminded me of the ending to Spike Lee's 25th Hour, where we get Brian Cox's hope for the future. He narrates it, but we see his narration, where he says he's going to... Kevin writes and says he's going to go to school. He's going to get a degree. He's going to get a great job. He's going to save up. He's going to buy the house. And he's going to move in there with the mom. And then when he finally moves in, Kim will be able to come out of the bunker. But the first part of that story was it shows him at this creek, setting the scholar stone into the creek, and it sinks. Some people look into that as because it was floating in the house, but now it's sinking in the creek, meaning like the hope for it is either gone or he's not hopeful for it anymore and it's just gonna sink. To me, I just took it as he's putting it there because he's gonna try to make a living and earn in an honest way. He's not gonna rely on this thing that could help him out. He's gonna do it on his own. And we see all of it, almost as if it's really happening. But then we see we see him sitting in his actual bedroom with his pen and paper, knowing it was all just his writing. It hadn't happened yet. And director Bong Joon-ho had actually said that he had done the math himself for how long it would take Kevin to go from where he is then to going to school, getting a job, being promoted to such a way where he can make enough money to save up, how long it would take him to save up, and then buy the house. And it would take more years than his or Kim's lifetime. And Ho said he did that to make it so that it was unachievable, basically. It was like just a very bleak ending, like it wasn't going to happen. It was going to end on hope for a goal that couldn't be reached, whereas, earlier it was, I guess, hope, but more lying and cheating to achieve something. Now it's real hope, but the goal will never be reached. So, and it's left ambiguous, as if, right there, if he's ever going to achieve that or not. But Ho did go on to say something to the effect of, you know, it's not going to happen. He's going to die in that basement, even if Kevin does get the house. But I thought this was a great movie. Again, I think Joker is my favorite of the year just because it does feel like that gritty early Scorsese crime movie. But this, I think, is the best made, of 2019. I loved this movie to death. Wonderfully acted, wonderfully written. The editing, the set designs, and the architecture of the houses. The story itself. Going into this as blind as I did and just watching this movie unfold naturally was a wonderful experience. And yet, it's not really a horror film. It does have that one scene with the young son's traumatic event that was genuinely scary. That was a creepy-ass moment. But, you know, it's all over the place with comedy. It is a comedy, but there's a lot of really bleak drama in it as well. And, of course, by the end of the movie, it's who were the real parasites. Is it the Kims being a parasite to this home and family? Or is it, is it the first housemate's husband who is actually just down in the underbelly of this house without them knowing? And then Kim becomes that same parasite at the end for another family that doesn't realize he's there? Or is it the Parks who rely on others to, do things that could bring them closer together? Like a chauffeur, housemaid, tutors. And I'm guessing all are correct. But I thought this was an excellent, excellent movie. If you're still watching this and you haven't seen it, thank you for watching, but if there was ever a movie that I told people to stop watching the review and go see it because I didn't want it spoiled, this would have to be the number one, because this was such an experience to watch it unfold. I really enjoyed this film. I'm glad it won the Oscar for Best Picture. And also for being the first foreign, completely, wholly un-American film to win Best Picture. Best Foreign Film and Best Picture. Huge honor for that, too. Very well deserved. And just, the first half, it is very funny in a very dry, satirical way. But then the second half and the ending is just so bleak. It's so bleak and dramatic, but it doesn't feel tonally uneven. Like, it makes sense how it got there, which is another achievement. How it can be so funny and then so dramatic and sad and bleak without feeling like it's all over the place. But yeah, I've gone on for this quite a while. But, only because I know it's one of those movies that can be interpreted in many different ways. And if I don't say all of them, people will be like, well, actually, it is. This is what that means. But yeah, Parasite, excellent, excellent, excellent movie. I loved it. And then when director Bong Joon-ho was asked if he thought it was his best movie, he said, no, my next one will. Or at least I hope so. He just seems like a very humble guy. And then winning the Oscar for this, just saying, it's a great honor. Thank you. Not getting all political about it. Great movie. I loved it. But yeah, I know it's been a long review. I hope I touched on everything I could have, because it's a movie that deserves it. It's one that deserves a long review and to be as analytical as possible. But thank you for watching.